Hi everyone, my name is Jonathon Strauss. I'm the manager of the Network Schools program here at the University of New South Wales, and I'd like to welcome you to this Google Hangout about UNSW scholarships and our co-op scholarship. So thank you for joining us this evening. If this is your first Google Hangout, welcome. We've done a couple of them in the last few weeks. We're definitely here to answer any questions that you may have specific to scholarships or the co-op scholarship and that application process as well. So if you do have those questions, please check out the Q&A app as part of Google Hangouts. You'll notice it probably on the right-hand side of your screen, and there's where you can enter in any of those questions that you may have for us this evening. We have three guests with us this evening on the panel who are going to be here to kind of answer any of your questions, anything that you want to get answered about scholarships or the co-op scholarship here at UNSW. And two of you have already submitted those questions, so that's fantastic. We will get to those as we can this evening. There's a little bit of a generic information and kind of broad information that we'd like to supply with everyone first, so we will get to those questions after that initial conversation. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our three panelists this evening. So the first person I'm going to introduce you to is Feliz Block, who is the manager of UNSW Scholarships. Feliz, would you like to say a few words?
Hello, welcome to the Google Hangout. My name is Feliz Block. I'm manager of UNSW Scholarships. We deal with undergraduate and postgrad coursework scholarships, and I'm really looking forward to answering some of your questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Feliz. The next person on our panel is Trina De Leon, who is the co-op scholarships application manager here at UNSW. Trina, would you like to just say hello?
Hi, everybody.
Excellent. And also this evening we have Alex Scriven, who is a current student here at the University of New South Wales. He's studying a Bachelor of Commerce and a Bachelor of Science, and he also happens to be a scholarship holder here at UNSW as well. So Alex, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone.
Alex, can I ask you also, what year are you here at UNSW as well?
I'm currently in my fourth and last year here.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to now go back to Feliz and say, Feliz, can you tell us a little bit about scholarships here at UNSW? Who are we offering scholarships to?
Well, we offer scholarships to a whole range of people. Mostly our scholarships are targeted at high school leavers, so students who are entering from Year 12 and coming here. We also offer scholarships for current students at UNSW, as well as those going on to do postgraduate study, either research or coursework. Hopefully tonight I think we'll be focused on mostly on the high school leaver scholarships. If you search on our website currently, we have about 90 different scholarship programs open to high school leavers.
Okay. And in total, how much money does the university give away every year in scholarships?
Well, it does vary from year to year because scholarship programs do change, but generally about $9 to $10 million a year is given out in scholarships money.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's a lot of money, and people need to apply for it in order to get those scholarships. So, Trina, can you tell us a little bit about what the co-op scholarship is in particular? So that's one of the scholarships that we offer here at UNSW, and it's a little bit special for a number of reasons. Do you want to talk us through that a little bit?
That's right. The co-op scholarship is an industry-linked scholarship worth $16,750 per year for the degree, so that could be 4 or 5 years. The scholars receive up to 18 months of industry training throughout their program, and there's also a professional development and leadership program alongside the co-op scholarship. And predominantly it is for the high school leavers as well.
Okay, excellent. Feliz, back to you now just for another quick question. So who should be applying for a scholarship at the moment, and when do they need to submit an application by? Is there a deadline?
Yes, there is. Currently our high school leaver scholarships are open, so for students who are intending to start university in 2015, the scholarship applications are currently open, but they close mostly on the 30th of September. So you only have a couple more weeks to get your applications in, which is why we're encouraging everybody to jump online to our website, have a search for the scholarships that you might be eligible for, and get your applications in by the 30th of September.
So all of our applications, I think that's a really great transition. So are all of our applications online for scholarships?
That's right, Jonathan. All our scholarships are online now. We don't do any paper or manual applications anymore. So you need to log on to our website, have a search, and all the applications are now online, and you submit all your supporting documents online as well. So that's all done electronically now.
Excellent. And we do have a slide that we'll reference in just a few minutes that walks you through that application process just a little bit, where you need to go on that scholarships website. But for those of you who are at home and on a computer, as you would be at the moment, feel free to just Google UNSW scholarships, and that should bring you up to the UNSW scholarships homepage, where you will need to start your application process. Trina, can you tell us, there's obviously an application program or process for co-op scholarships as well. Is there something that's a little bit different than that for that application process than the other scholarships that we offer here at UNSW?
Yes. Firstly, with the co-op application, it is online. You do need to register for that. However, you can use your scholarships profile if you already have a scholarships registration. So that can help you in some way, but you do need to submit a separate application for the co-op scholarship. I might just add here as well, Jonathan, that we also manage the scholarship applications for the Faculty of Engineering Rural Scholarship, which is worth $11,000 per year for the 4 years of the degree. And that is using the co-op scholarships application system. And you can choose to either use the same application for both the co-op and the rural engineering scholarship, or you can just choose to apply for only the rural engineering through that same system as well.
So Feliz, I'm going to go back to you again now, just for a little bit more. So we have scholarships here at UNSW that are offered in broad categories, so I might be interested in a particular area of study, but also really, really specific scholarships as well. So is the application process the same for all of those scholarships, or is it a different? I guess my question is, how do you apply? What is it that you need to do, and what does the application process look like?
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. It's a great question, because now that we're all online, we've also simplified the application process as well. So when you register and log in under your profile, you now answer 5 general questions. They look at things like your academic achievement, community involvement, leadership, those types of things. But those questions that you answer and answer once are used for all of your scholarship applications. So we now have a one application, many scholarships model online, so that you don't have to cut and paste or enter a separate application for anything other than the co-op scholarship program. Some scholarships do have more specific questions, so other than the 5 general questions, you might have to answer 1 or 2 more questions for a particular scholarship that you've indicated you'd like to apply for. But otherwise, once you've answered those 5 questions, you can apply for as many scholarships as you are eligible for, and that's what we're encouraging everybody to do at the moment.
Excellent. So Alex, I'm going to go to you now. So you are a scholarship holder here at the university at the moment. What scholarship are you on, and what was that application process like for you?
I'm a Malcolm Chaikin Foundation scholarship holder, which is a scholarship specific for a couple of degrees. It's a commerce science, commerce engineering sort of scholarship. So it's specific to a certain degree. That's a scholarship for the duration of your degree. For myself, the scholarship was a relatively easy sort of application. I was filling out scholarships at a number of different areas, and the really, really useful thing was that it was all online, so I didn't have reams and reams of paper and filling out things, and my handwriting isn't the best, so it was really good that I was able to do that all online. And so my scholarship is financial assistance, but also it comes with this sort of community of people who are also on the same sort of scholarship, and the scholarships community as well.
Excellent. And what made you apply for scholarships? Not just the Malcolm Chaikin, but I know that you applied for a few other scholarships as well. What was it that motivated you to apply for a scholarship?
Yeah, well, I definitely applied for as many scholarships as I possibly could, because it's a free sort of shot. They're not going to take money off you if you don't get it. So it was I just spent a day gathering all my stuff together and sent off applications for everything I could. My large motivation was because I'm not from Sydney, so in order to attend UNSW, I would need to move out of home. So that was going to be either a large financial burden on my parents or on myself. And so I was looking for scholarships to assist me in actually sort of putting me on the same level playing field as students who are able to live at home and just commute every day. So that was a large factor, and also the other sort of benefits that come with a scholarship are also extremely beneficial.
Excellent. Feliz, I'm going to turn to you now and go actually to our first question, which is come from someone who's watching this evening. It's coming from Julian Vidal, and his question is related to the All-Rounder Scholarship and whether achievements that you've completed in year 11, prior to year 11, apply for the All-Rounder Scholarship. He's indicated that it looks like we only look at extracurricular activity achievements and academic results in year 11 and year 12, and is it anything before that? And if not, just yes. I guess we just need a confirmation of that.
We prioritise the things that you've done in year 11 and 12 for that specific scholarship, and generally speaking, we're only really looking for things that you've probably done since about year 10. So year 10, 11 and 12, those activities, those leadership skills that you've developed in those later years is what we would prioritise over anything you've done earlier. If you've done something fantastically outstanding in year 9 and you wish to include that, please do. We don't want you to omit anything that you think is relevant, but we definitely prioritise things you've done in your senior years, particularly for that. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, and thank you, Julian, for the question. We have another question here that I think is also really relevant, and I might turn to you again, Feliz. Yeah. This comes from Rajesh Shah, and his question is, I was advised that mostly people with a 98 ATAR get scholarships. Is that correct? So I guess I'd like to expand on Rajesh's question as well. Do you have to have a 98 ATAR in order to get a scholarship here at UNSW, or are there other people that get scholarships?
The short answer is no. The longer answer is it definitely depends on the scholarship that you are interested in applying for. There are definitely academic achievement type scholarships where we look at your ATAR, and for example the Scientia scholarship, which is valued at $10,000 a year, we are only looking at students with an ATAR of 99.9. But those are few and far between. Most of the other scholarships have other criteria besides an ATAR or academic merit. So the short answer is no. It really does depend which scholarship you want to apply for, though. Best thing to do is to get online and check the specific selection criteria for each scholarship, because it will be indicated there if there is a specific ATAR required in order to be considered for that particular scholarship.
Now, Feliz, when we go out and visit schools, the Future Students Office, we often say, and so correct me if I'm wrong, and hopefully we've been telling everyone the right thing, would you agree with the statement that you have to be in it to win it? You need to submit an application to get a scholarship.
That's absolutely crucial. The scholarship application process is completely separate from the admissions process. So what you have to do through UAC, the University's Admissions Centre, we don't look at those applications at all. We only look at scholarship applications. So you have to be registered online on our system and submit a scholarship application for us to consider you for a scholarship. And you definitely have to be in it to win it. I cannot award a scholarship to somebody who hasn't applied for one. It just doesn't generally work that way, except for the odd scholarship where we are automatically awarded based on ATAR. But yes, get your applications in, because we can't consider you or consider your application if you haven't submitted by the deadline.
Excellent. And so that was my follow-up question to that as well, was what if I don't get a scholarship? I applied for one, but I don't get one in the end. Are there still scholarships available to me? Should I be looking to apply again in the future, or should I be looking at other places for scholarships?
It's a good question. While we do have a lot of scholarships for high school leavers, actually we have more scholarships for students who are already here. For students who are in their second year, third year, considering doing honours, considering going on a travel or an exchange program, we actually have more scholarships for current UNSW students. So don't be despondent if you don't get one in your first year or your first attempt at trying. Once you enroll here and you are a student, there are definitely many more scholarship opportunities for you as well.
Excellent. And Alex, I think when we visit schools, you're often encouraging students to also look at their local area, local clubs and societies that might exist for scholarship money as well. So the university has a huge range of scholarships, but students should also consider what might be available to them in their local area. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There's always different organisations that will be able to fund you. There's Rotaries, there's local things that are looking to fund their local communities, especially if you're someone who's not from Sydney, if you're from a local community and they have local community fundraisers and community organisations. They're often really proactive in wanting to get one of their community members to go to the sort of big city, get education at a university like this, and then come back and use their skills in local community. So definitely search far and wide. There's lots of things available.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. And thank you, Rajesh, for the question. We're now going to go to a question from Cedric, and it's for you, Trina, from a co-op angle. So Cedric Yu-Ching Cheng has asked, will Australian permanent residents who took their secondary education exam overseas and residing overseas be eligible for the co-op scholarship?
The short answer to that is yes. So the co-op scholarship is for Australian citizens and permanent residents only. We also actually accept applications from New Zealand citizens as well. So whether you are studying your Year 12 or equivalent in Australia or overseas, that is considered.
Excellent. Thank you, Cedric, for the question. That was a pretty easy answer, which is good. We always like easy questions and easy answers. It's wonderful. I now have a question here which came in a bit earlier, but I think it's probably relevant. And I think, Feliz, it's going to go for you, but Trina, you may have some things to chime in with here as well. But first with you, Feliz, would it be possible to explain, this comes from Matthew G., another question, would it be possible to explain what supporting documents are needed for scholarships at UNSW? I can't seem to find, and of course his question has just moved on me, I can't seem to find any specified request for documents in the scholarship details. So can you kind of outline what kind of supporting documents you might need to supply? And we'll go with you, Feliz, first, and then I'll come to you, Trina.
Okay. For our online application process, you need to upload one PDF file of supporting documents. The maximum size is 10 meg. So just to keep that in the back of your mind. The things that we need to see at the bare minimum include things like your Year 12 results. You could also include your Year 11 results to date. Obviously, you won't have all your final results, but your school reports from the last 2 years would be useful. And then we ask for anything that supports anything you've put in your application. So if you tell me you've done 3 years of volunteer surf lifesaving and you have a certificate that states that, or a reference from your coach or something like that, they should also be included in your supporting documents. Different scholarships will list specific requirements for documents. So if you are applying, say, for the Ben Lexon Sports Scholarship, you have to include a reference letter from your coach or team manager. So you need to read the specific criteria for each scholarship and include any supporting documents that are asked in those questions as well.
So Trina, does that kind of apply the same for co-op scholarships, or is there something else that you're looking for?
Well, no, the co-op scholarship is a little different. We only ask for one supporting documentation, and that's called the Schools Assessment Page, or SAP for short. That is essentially the school's verification of the student's application, and it's a document that they can submit independently of the student's submission of their application form. So what I mean to say is that a student can submit their application even if the school hasn't submitted their supporting document yet, or vice versa. So the important tip I'd like to give here is that with most schools ending this week, it's essential that, number one, of course, you register for the co-op scholarship, but also to at least complete step 2, which is simply one click of a button to say you're nominating your school and the teacher at that school. And that way, they know you're intending on applying, and they can submit the application before they go on holidays at the end of the week. With regards to other documentation, such as the school reports and references and the like, we don't have a question there for you, or a function there for you to upload that. We actually ask you, it's part of the questions in the application for you to record your school results. So yeah, there's no other supporting documentation required other than the school assessment page.
So it's important for people to just remember that there are those two different requirements. So scholarships generally are looking for some supporting documentation, and as Feliz mentioned before, one document, but that is less than 10 megabytes. And then co-op is looking for the school's assessment process, school's assessment page to be completed, and you need to submit or indicate that you're ready for your application to be, the school's assessment page to be completed on your behalf. So thank you, Matthew G, for that question. I think it was a really really good one for us to cover. I'm now going to go to a question from Nathan F. And that question is, again, for you, Trina. What is the general success rate of the co-op scholarship? And are there any tips for answering the longer response questions? Thank you.
Hey. So let's just look at statistics, for example, from last year. We had approximately 800 or 900 applications. And from there, we then interviewed over 300 students, and then from that group, offered up to 100 scholarships. So for you actuarial students out there, you could do the maths. With regards to the tips for answering the longer response questions, what we're looking for is not quantity, we're looking for quality. So I guess it's more about your ability to articulate the skills that you have or achievements that you have reached, and yeah, to try and use the whole application to show each of those different areas that we're looking for, such as teamwork, skills, leadership, community involvement, and the like.
Thank you, Trina, and thank you, Nathan, for that question as well. I'm going to now turn to Alex, and then I'm going to go to Feliz. But Alex, my question for you is a little bit related to your scholarship, but how has being a scholarship holder made your experience here at UNSW different? Do you think, because you've been a scholarship holder the entire time, but do you think it's made a noticeable difference to you?
Yeah, it definitely has. As I said before, the main reason, one of the main drivers for me to apply for the scholarship was because it was going to be quite difficult for me to actually attend the university, not having lived in Sydney. So actually being able to get a scholarship that was able to help me, support me with rent and food, and that was a really big part of my degree. I mean, what it did was it allowed me the time to actually get involved with what the university offers. So, I mean, going to class and those sorts of things is sort of taken as a given, but what UNSW has is an incredible student life. There are so many different clubs and societies and things going on, and also because UNSW is really connected with the Sydney scene for industry, for things that are going on, there's always events and talks happening. So these sorts of extracurricular things that you can get involved into are things that I did a lot of in high school and I really wanted to get involved into at university. So the gift of time and actually being able to do that and not having to work all day every day that I'm not studying to just make rent was a absolutely huge gift, and that has fundamentally changed what my university experience would have been otherwise. So made an awful lot of really close friends, got to build up really good skill sets, and really get involved in different things. So that was really important. And sort of on that note as well, I found that being a scholarship holder is something that really helps you sort of make your mark and get noticed around university, because when you're entering university, you're entering with a large cohort. UNSW has an awful lot of students. So to be able to present to lecturers and present to faculty representatives and things that you've actually worked quite hard in high school and you've got something to show for it, then that sort of gets your foot in the door, gets you able to talk to people, gets you able to actually make a bit of sort of headway for yourself in an environment where there's a lot of people, and it's quite easy to sort of get lost in that crowd if you aren't proactive enough.
Excellent, thank you, Alex. I think you've raised a good point as well, which I'm going to turn to Feliz with, which is that I believe, Alex, you lived on campus here in accommodation on campus when you first moved to campus. That's right? Yeah, no? Oh, I'm wrong. Well, Feliz.
Yes.
That Alex didn't just say that, and let's pretend he did live on campus. Is there, are there scholarships that are available for people who are looking to live on campus?
Yes, there are, Jonathan. We have several residential scholarships, as we call them, and they're increasing in number all the time. We are lucky enough to have first-class on-campus accommodation now, the Kensington colleges being amongst them, as well as some other colleges. And we have more and more scholarships that either pay part scholarships or fully cover the costs of your accommodation on campus. So if you are moving from interstate or from the country and you are considering coming to UNSW and distance or travel is an issue, definitely look out for residential scholarships, and you can search for them specifically on our website as well.
Excellent. I'm just going to... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Trina.
Sorry, just that with the Faculty of Engineering Rural Scholarship application, there is an option there for you to indicate your interest to be considered for an accommodation scholarship that we have in partnership with some of the colleges on campus. So it's just a simple tick of the yes on the box, and it gives us permission to let the colleges know your interest. But just remember, you still obviously need to approach each college with regards to an accommodation place there.
Excellent. Feliz, can I turn to you again, just another general question. What's the range of scholarships in terms of value amount? So scholarships range from what to what? What kind of scholarships are we talking about? One-offs, multiple years, values, generally? What's available?
There is a really wide range of scholarships. So when we say scholarships, it doesn't necessarily mean it covers all your tuition fees. For example, when we say scholarships, it could be anything from a $2,000 reward to do a specific subject or program, valid for 1 year only, or it can range up to $25,000 a year for the duration of your program. And we have everything in between. The most common value is about $4,000 to $5,000 a year, generally for 2 or 3 years. So enough to sort of get you through a basic degree. But there is a very wide range of scholarships available.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I'm going to now turn to a question that's come in from Emma Udale. And her question is, will I be able to add supporting documents after the 30th of September? I think she's having a mild panic attack, which is that she's completed her Queen Scout Award, but the confirmation won't arrive in time by the 30th of September. So what to do? What happens in that case?
My best advice for you, Emma, is to submit your application and submit whatever supporting documents you have as at the 30th. If we require more information for a specific scholarship, we can always contact you and ask for that. But please put in your application by the 30th with whatever you have. If it becomes relevant later on down the track, we can always get in touch with you and get that information.
Excellent. Thank you, Feliz. And thank you, Emma. Congratulations on the Queen Scout Award as well. I think I'm going to direct this question to you, Feliz, but it might also apply to you, Trina. The question comes from Ethan Ryan, and his question is, in the general questions, there is a box that asks, provide further information about the activities mentioned above. What kind of information are you looking for in this box? I assume that is for a scholarship application.
Yes, that's correct. For the first 4 general questions, it starts off as a drop-down list, so we kind of guide you towards the sorts of things that you might want to include in your answer. The second part of the question, part B, generally allows you to put in things that we've left off that list because the list is not comprehensive or exhaustive by any means. So those part A and part B are generally sort of lists or bullet points, and then part C is where you need to expand on that. So if you've done Scouts for the last 3 years, you need to tell us that you've got what level you've achieved. Or if you've done Duke of Ed, you might want to tell us more specifically about what level you've achieved. It's basically elaborating on the bullet points or the lists that you've selected higher up. It's the only place that we have that's a free text box that you can tell us what you've done and what you've achieved. So it's important to fill out that last section.
Thank you. I think that's great, and I think that goes as a perfect segue then. So thank you, Ethan, for that question, and thank you, Feliz. And now this perfect question from Matthew DeMeglio, which is, he cuts straight to the chase. Do we have to write a lot in the question boxes, or is it better to be shorter? What are we looking for?
Generally speaking, there's a character limit or a word limit, so you need to stay within that. Having said that, what Trina said earlier certainly applies. Definitely quality over quantity should always apply. It pays to be concise, but it also pays to tell us everything that you need to tell us. So be succinct, but be comprehensive. So it's a bit of a balancing act. But as I said, it's the only opportunity that we have to assess you against thousands of other students. So you need to, number 1, not be too humble. And number 2, actually use the space that you have to tell us what it is that is unique about you and your achievements, and elaborate on your application. So use the space that you have, but be as eloquent as you can, I guess, for want of a better word.
So your advice is to not fall victim to the tall poppy syndrome. Be a tall poppy.
Absolutely. As I said, when we are assessing thousands and thousands of applications, just to get into UNSW, you've already achieved a certain academic level. So what is it about you that will stand out from the crowd? And that's what you need to tell us. We don't know anything about you other than what you let us know and what you can support with your application. So this is not the time to be humble. This is the time to state quite matter-of-factly what you've achieved and what you're passionate about and what interests you. And that's what will make your application stand out.
Excellent. Thank you for Liz, and thank you, Matthew, for that question as well. Trina, I'm going to switch to you now, and because we're getting quite a few co-op specific questions. So the first one, that's the kind of most generic-ish, I guess, is how does a co-op scholarship differ from a cadetship, and which one is better? Now, don't be biased at all in your answer.
Of course, we believe co-op is better. The most obvious difference between co-op, the co-op scholarship program compared to cadetships or internships is that through the program you do receive up to 3 or 4 industry placements with different sponsor companies. And we have over 150 of Australia's leading companies that do sponsor the program. And so the benefit of that is obviously to gain different kinds of experiences within the industry. So for example, if you're looking at the accounting industry, accounting in the big banks compared to a small organization is very different. And at the end of the program, you can, and our scholars are often offered graduate positions by these sponsor companies, but you have the choice of accepting that or not. You are not obliged to accept a graduate offer, nor are the sponsors as well obliged to offer a position to you. However, as I said, most of our scholars do receive graduate offers at the end of the program. So yeah, the difference is that the student won't be married necessarily to one company. They are given a breadth of experiences.
I think another thing on that one, for a lot of my friends who are doing co-op scholarships, one of the things they talk about often is the co-op community that you get involved into. They have, you know, leadership programs, and they do a sort of a charity thing, and they've got their whole little community. That's something that might not necessarily come with the cadetship as well. So that's something that my friends on co-op often talk about.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Alex and Trina. And thank you, Vinit, for your question. We have 2 questions here that are being voted up quite popularly, and both are related to, I believe, co-op. But the first one I'm going to go with is Edward Hawkins' questions. And Edward Hawkins' question, which is, when looking at the trial yearly results on the co-op application, is the school's quality of candidature taken into account? Trina?
So the purpose of those 2 sections, in the application we have a section for the Year 11 and Year 12 report card, but also where available, we have a section as well for the HSC trial results. We simply ask for those so that we can have an indication of where you are at in terms of your academic ability in that area. And obviously to see that you've studied maths, for example, if you're applying for an actuarial studies scholarship.
Excellent. Good question. I think someone else has asked that question as well. But thank you, Edward, for your question. The other question I wanted to go to was, what sort of information needs to be included in reference letters? And that's, again, from Emma Udale. So that applies to you, Trina, I believe, reference letters? Or
the school can provide, the school does have an opportunity as part of their school assessment page to either write a comment or upload a copy or text from the school reference letter. We don't prescribe what needs to be in that, just simply that the school verifies that the student is who they are, that they have indeed achieved the things that they have said they've achieved in the application, and anything else they can add to their character or achievements. I don't know about you, Felice, with other scholarships.
Yeah, there are other scholarships that do ask for reference letters. As I said before, the sports scholarships come to mind immediately because they will require a very specific reference from your team coach or team manager. So that will need to outline your sporting achievements, and back up anything that you've put in your application. And as well as if you do have your Year 12 general school reference, you should include that in your supporting documents as well. Most students are already receiving those. If you haven't, don't panic, it doesn't matter. But if you have a reference from somebody that backs up your application, you should just include that in your supporting documents for the general scholarships application.
Excellent. Thank you both for that answer, and thank you, Emma, again for that question. Feliz, I'm going to stick with you and say, what happens if I'm a Year 12 student at the moment, so a high school leaver getting ready for the HSC exams, and I'm planning to take a gap year? Should I be applying for scholarships now, or should I wait and do it next year when I come back from my gap year? What should happen?
That's a really good question. We get asked this a lot. My general advice is you should apply for scholarships now anyway, because there are certain scholarships that will either let you defer or that you won't be able to apply for while you're doing your gap year. Having said that, it depends on the terms and conditions of each scholarship. They do vary. So our general advice is apply now. We will let you know if it's something that can be deferred or if you do need to reapply during your gap year. But read the terms and conditions of each scholarship when you click on them on the website.
Thank you, and I think I'm going to go with another question here, which I think a lot of people might be curious about, and Feliz, I'll start with you, and I'll go to Trina then as well. So who are the people that are actually going to assess my application for a scholarship? Who does that?
That's another good question. Each scholarship has a selection panel, and the thing to note is we have hundreds of different scholarships and we have hundreds of different selection panels. Initially, though, the UNSW Scholarships Office does a check for eligibility and does a basic shortlisting, if you like, and then those applications are sent off to the selection panel. The selection panels are generally at least 2 to 3 people, generally include somebody from the faculty. It could be an academic, it could be the dean or the associate dean. So you're having a few people who are looking at your application. Again, it does depend on the actual scholarship that you apply for, and the panels are different, but they are being assessed by a group of people, essentially.
Excellent, thank you. Trina, how does it work? Is it similar for co-op?
A little bit similar, yes. So with the co-op applications, the co-op office assesses it initially. And then for each program preference that the student selects, we then forward those their application to those faculties or schools for their assessment. And then also part of the assessment process is obviously the interview process. And with that, we actually invite the sponsor companies to be part of the panel, but also alumni or other academics can be involved in that process of selection as well.
Which I think is a good transition back to you, Feliz. So co-op has an interview process. Are there applications that are done through the scholarships website that have an interview process?
Yes, there are, Jonathan. Most of them don't have an interview process. Most of our general scholarships don't, but the larger scholarship programs do. For example, the Malcolm Chaikin Foundation scholarship, which Alex received, he would have attended an interview for that. And those interview dates are actually listed on our website already, so they're being held in November, so you need to be available for an interview in November. But again, it depends on the actual scholarship program, and it can change. Sometimes it says, you know, shortlisted applicants may be invited for an interview. It doesn't necessarily mean that an interview will be conducted that year, but you'll be advised at that at the time of shortlisting.
Excellent. Alex, can you talk to us a little bit about what your interview experience was like?
Yeah, so my interview panel consisted of, just like Phyllis said, so I had, my specific degree was for commerce and science, so I had a representative from the business school, I had a representative from science, an academic from both of those, somebody from scholarships on the panel. And largely what the interview was about was really getting to know you. So giving you the chance to speak a little bit more outside of the things you've written on paper, because it's often dot points or just sentences and listing things. So I was asked often, you know, why I undertook things, what did I get out of them, and so a lot about myself and my motivations for doing activities, and also my motivations for studying at UNSW. Why did I want to study there? How would the scholarship help me out? And so I was explaining why I was wanting to study there, and so those are the sorts of things that would be good to think of when coming towards an interview.
Excellent. Thank you all for that. Vinit has another very popular question. 7 people agree with Vinit that it should be included in the application, in our questions. So the question is, my school reports do not provide us with our course ranks. Would I just leave the positions column blank? Who should that go to?
Should I answer that one?
I think that's a trend.
With the co-op application, it is geared to fit with the results that the New South Wales students, or HSC students rather, provide, but simply enter the results that you do have as best you can, and there is a space on the bottom there which is a free text to explain what results you have entered. If they do not fit with our explanation there, you could say whether if you were studying an IB or you were studying at an international school overseas and you only have SAT results. So simply just write what you have and put an explanation there. And where you don't have something to put, then yes, simply put a dash in that section, in that question, so that the application system can read it as being complete.
Excellent, thank you, Trina, and thank you, Jeanette, for that question. The next question I'm going to go to is from Connor Coyne, and his question is, for the co-op rural engineering scholarships, how important is it to have shown practical dedication to that field of study? Example, developing programs for computer science.
Right, that's a great question there. Of course, practical experience or dedication is desirable, but if you don't have that experience, let us know in what ways you do have that interest and potential to study in that area.
Excellent. Thank you, Connor, for that question, and thank you, Trina, for the answer. The next question I'm going to Liz with, and the question is, what should we do? This question comes from Scott Watts, and his question is, what should we do if there are significant factors affecting our performance in trials, such that they do not fully reflect where we are at academically? And that's all outside of the scope of PAS in Scott's case. Do we have any suggestions on what he should do with his application for a scholarship?
So, Jonathan, I think that's a good question. The short answer is there is a specific mechanism with that, other than just go from the UAC system. So you should have been adversely affected. You should definitely let you know. It will impact your admission requirements. And to scholarship application, you've got ample room to explain your academic achievements, for example.
If I just interrupt for a moment, I think we're going to do a little check of our sound. I think we're having some problems with the sound at the moment. So if I can just get all of you turn down your volume just a little bit, and we'll see if that helps with the feedback that we're getting at the moment. So is that a little bit better? Everyone good with that? We'll just check. Trina, do you want to just say a few words just for a moment?
Sure. 1, 2, 3 okay?
Yep, that's good. I think that's a little bit better than what was happening before. So I apologize for that, Liz. We got some really crazy feedback, and we might still actually be getting a little bit of feedback. Would you mind starting that question again? So the question was, and it comes again from Scott Watts, and what should we do if there are significant factors affecting our performance in trials such that they do not fully reflect where we are at academically, and that curriculum falls outside of the scope of EAS? So what should he do as part of his scholarship application?
Okay, so for his scholarship application, you should definitely try and explain circumstances, particularly if there is a question about your economic or social circumstances. That's a good place to kind of explain what's happened. But we do give you ample space under that specific question as well to explain hopefully there's enough scope in the application to explain the circumstances.
Thank you, Liz. I think we are still having some audio issues, including Rory, who's let us know that we're having some audio issues with a lot of feedback. So I'm not certain if that has been addressed, but I seem to not hear myself at the moment, so that seems to have improved. So we're a lot better now, which is lovely and great. Sorry, Rory, and everyone else who is suffering through that as we just had that momentary meltdown of Google Hangouts. But hopefully, Scott, you got an answer to that question, and that we can now move on and everyone can hear us again. So thank you, Scott, and thank you, Feliz, and thank you, panel, for dealing with that fun moment of all the feedback. The next question we have, I'm going to direct toward Trina, and it comes from Cedric Yu Ching Cheng again, which is, what do you think will make you stand out in an application to the co-op scholarship? What qualities are you looking for in an applicant?
If you go to our website, we do list those qualities there, but in summary, it would be things like we're looking at leadership skills or experiences, teamwork, you know, the kind of soft skills that the sponsors would be looking for while you work there. There's also the community involvement, whether it be in sport or church or any other activity. I couldn't really tell you exactly what would make you stand out without me knowing you personally, but the main message there is echoing what Feliz said earlier, which is that for you to not be shy, you know, this is your opportunity to boast about yourself. So you might like to, as a tip, write down those skills and activities or achievements that you have, and then prioritize them as to which ones you feel are the strongest, and go from there.
Excellent. So it's really a personal kind of thing based on who you are, what you've done, and really, and as we were saying before, make sure that you don't undersell yourself. Make sure that you tell us how awesome you really are.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you, Cedric, for that question. Alex, you kind of addressed this a little bit before, but I might turn to both Feliz and Trina for this one as well, which is another question from Cedric. What kind of questions are generally asked in scholarships interviews? And how does an interview work if you are overseas or if you can't be here on the day of the interview? I know this is everyone's favorite question. So who would like to speak first? Trina?
Okay. Let's see. What kind of questions are generally asked in scholarship interviews? Our advice for our students, and in fact, actually, we have an interview briefing day, if I might be able to plug that right now. We have an interview briefing day the day before interviews are held, which is there to help you prepare for those interviews. So we will address these as well at that time. But generally speaking, the first advice would be that the panel could obviously ask you to expand on anything that you have written in your application. So, you know, if there was a particular project that you completed, they might ask you to describe that. But it is, I guess, dependent on the faculty or school that is interviewing you. They may ask you specific questions about your interest in those areas. Yeah, but as Alex said earlier, it's, you know, about just getting to know you. So that's the questions that they may ask. In terms of the interviews for international applicants, our message there is to definitely apply and submit an application, and we will try to accommodate that where we can. I can't guarantee that a Skype or phone interview will be provided, because it does depend on the schedule, the time difference, and the resources available to provide that. But, you know, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it, and we'll always try to work with the student. The only point there is you need to know that the interviews are set dates, so we can't change them. It is, the briefing day is held on the 24th of November, with the interviews on the 25th of November, and this is again just for co-op. And knowing those dates, you do need to where possible, be available to come to the university for a face-to-face interview. The Skype and phone interviews are not always the best medium to conduct an interview, so you are at a little bit of a disadvantage there. And the other point I just want to make is if your reason for being away is because you're going on school fees, well, you need to decide, which one is more important.
I think that's a good answer. Feliz, do you have anything to add about the scholarship questions? I think they're probably pretty similar, but are there the dates would be all over the place potentially, and when interviews might happen?
Yeah. As I said, other than the Malcolm Chaikin Foundation scholarships, for which the dates are already set, the 25th and 26th of November, you may be asked for interviews for other scholarships that you've applied for, and you need to be willing to be present for those interviews if possible. Having said that, we will try and accommodate students who are overseas at the time with a Skype or a phone interview if required, but again, there's no guarantee that that will fit the schedule, but it shouldn't stop you from applying in the first place. And more generally speaking, my tips for interviewees, having sat on quite a few interview panels, is I think it's really obvious if you've rehearsed your answers and you are trying to tell an interview panel what you think they want to hear. So my general tips for interviews generally is to be as genuine and truthful and honest as possible. Be prepared, but don't be so rehearsed that it comes across as fake, if that makes sense. And the sorts of things that you will be asked are generally what Trina has touched on. It will ask you generally to expand on your application. But if a scholarship is, for example, emphasises leadership, then be prepared to speak about that, and also be prepared for a left of field question as well. We tend to keep scholarship interviews as consistent as possible, and my best advice to you is to be available and to be as genuine as possible.
And generally, you would agree, I think, that the interview panels are not out to get you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a test. It's not, we're not trying to trip you up at the last hurdle. It really is just to get a better sense of what you've already put into a paper application. You only get a sense of a person from reading an application, but you get a much better sense of a person when you are face-to-face with them and you can ask them specific questions. So it's not a trick. We're not trying to, not give you a scholarship. It's really just to encourage that open dialogue with an applicant.
Excellent. Thank you both for that, and thank you, Cedric, for the question.
My scholarship panel was really, really nice, and we ended up just chatting and having a really nice time, and one of the members who interviewed me has become a mentor, and over the years I pop in every few weeks and we chat and catch up again, so it's not terrible.
Good, excellent. Thank you, Cedric, for the question. Rory has another question that's quite popular, and it says, I'm still unclear about the references for both co-op and normal scholarships. Do we only have to give the names and numbers of our referees, or do we need to attach letters written by those referees?
I'll answer that for the general scholarships if you like. We don't generally contact your referees, so putting in a name and number of a referee is not much use. You would need an actual written reference from your referees. If that's what you want to include to support your application, there needs to be a written reference that you would then scan and include in your PDF of supporting documents.
Excellent. And Trina?
We're a little bit the opposite. With the co-op scholarship, and I mentioned before, there's no facility to attach any references by the applicant. The student simply needs to put the names and numbers of their referees in the question provided. We don't always contact them. It is only after the interview stage where candidates are very close to each other do we then move to the referees. So, yeah, they just simply need to be available at the end of November during that time if they were put down as a reference.
Excellent. Thank you both for that, and thank you, Rory, for the question. Sally has a question here that I think we've talked about a little bit before, and so we'll ask it, and I think we can answer with a pretty straightforward answer, which is, will you be disadvantaged if you can only provide your half-yearly report by the application deadline? Feliz? Or Trina?
Generally speaking, no. Obviously, you need to include whatever you have at hand at the application closing date. And the other thing to note is that most scholarship offers are made conditional upon you gaining entry to your program. So We do look at ATARs eventually. We do look to see if you are gaining entry into the program for which you're applying. So you won't be at a disadvantage if you only have your half-yearly reports at that stage.
Excellent, thank you.
For co-op, simply just put the explanation in the box provided if your half-yearly is the only report that you have. If possible, because we do provide quite a large space to put results in, see if you can find your other results from year 11 and include that as well. Yeah, but otherwise, put what you do have and write the explanation in the box.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sally, for that question. I have another question here from Sally, which I think is useful, and it covers sort of the gap year question that we were talking about a little bit before. But for Liz, if you're looking to start university in semester 2, should you be applying for scholarships now as well, or is there another deadline, another application round later?
No, the short answer is you need to apply now in the current round and go through the admissions process as if you were starting in semester 1 for scholarships anyway. And most scholarships will probably let you defer to semester 2, but it has to be done through the formal admissions process to defer your place. But the short answer is you need to apply for scholarships now. We don't have a second round of scholarship applications. Having said that, there are the odd scholarships that pop up and have later closing dates, so there may be different scholarship programs that are new or have a different closing date either in November or March, so you can keep looking for other scholarships in the meantime as well.
Excellent. I'm just going to take a little moment break before we go to our last 2 questions and ask Alex. Generally about your experience here at UNSW, what would you say has been one of the highlights for you as a student here at UNSW?
Well, as I said before, I've been involved in a lot of different sort of clubs and societies, so there's 1,000 different stories to pull out, and that's a very common story for a lot of students. But a couple of things that were really, really cool for me, I guess, was we have a really, really strong orientation week program. So we have 150 student volunteers that run an orientation week for the whole week. There's giant games and fairy floss and comedy nights and band nights. I was a volunteer for that twice, which was a really great experience. And I guess the other sort of highlight was in my first year I got involved in the reviews, which is sort of a spelled UE at the end, with sort of like a sketch comedy show with a bit of dancing and singing in bands. And I did that in 2011, my first year, and then in the next year I was elected to direct that show. And it was an incredible experience. I met so many people. I had an amazing time. We broke ticket sale records. Our videos got an award for Law Review of the Year, and just had an absolute blast. And from getting involved in those sorts of things, I picked up lifelong friends, roommates, and mentors actually, who are now working in all sorts of different industries. So those have been some real highlights for me.
Excellent, thank you, Alex. We have another question here, which I think is fairly an entertaining question, which is comes from Matthew G, and it says, "Is there any way to delete draft scholarship applications from my draft list?" And there are 4 other people who agree with that question. Any advice there for Liz?
I have to go in and check the technical aspects of deleting a draft application. Having said that, if you don't go through the process, answer all the questions and specific questions and submit, that draft application doesn't come to us. So there's no harm in it sitting there. Having said that, another important point is if you have submitted prior to the closing date, you can unsubmit your application at any time, edit it, and resubmit up until the closing date. So just another point to know.
Excellent. Thank you. And another question here from Vinit. Who can I use as a referee for scholarships?
Generally speaking, you should use anybody who is familiar with you, generally someone from your school who's aware of your academic or extracurricular activities is always a useful referee. The people you shouldn't use are anybody that's related to you. I'm stating the obvious, but don't get Uncle Joe to write you a reference. That doesn't really sway anybody.
Uncle Joe may not be so much help at that point in these scholarship applications. Thank you,
and
Vinay.
An impartial third party is what we would normally say, yes.
An impartial third party. The other question here, thank you, Vinay, again, and Avcha has been waiting patiently for an answer the whole evening, which is, will not doing Mathematics Extension 2 affect my chances of gaining a co-op actuarial studies placement? Trina?
That's an interesting question. I think essentially I would advise you to put your application in, because you don't know who you're competing against. But certainly be prepared to either do a bridging course or taking on a private tutor while you're here, because it is challenging, the university first year mathematics.
Excellent. Thank you, Avcha and Trina. Another question here from Joanne Silva, which I just want to quickly get to because she's also been waiting. Do we have a specific scholarship for the music education course, and if so, how do you go about applying? I think I'll chime in here. What we would definitely recommend is for all students who are interested in scholarships, go ahead and go look by keyword or by any specific amount of detail you want on our scholarships website and find out if there's a scholarship available for you. If it isn't available for music education, it might be available for education more broadly. So try a couple of different things out and find that on the scholarships website, and then do apply via the scholarships website for any of those applications that you may be that may apply to your circumstances or your interest areas. So thank you, Joanne, for that question. And our final question here is from Sally, and it says, in a few scholarships it asks to provide details about any scholarships or bursaries you may have received during high school. Is it okay to put not applicable or indicate you haven't received any, and will that impact your application? Again, my assumption, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it won't affect your application. It's just we'd like to know. It's tall poppy stuff again. We want to know if you're amazing. So tell us if you are. Agreed?
Yes, exactly, that's right. If you have received them, let us know. If you haven't, you can just put NA or leave it blank. It doesn't matter. It won't change your application status, but it's just good for us to know. Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. And Matthew, I would recommend that you definitely ring us in the scholarships office tomorrow, or send that in through an email, and we'll get to that question as well. Does anyone else have any other question or comments that you want to end with this evening? A reminder, perhaps, of the deadline for applications, which is the 30th of September. Anything else that you want to remind anyone about or cover?
I think I'd just like to say generally, as we mentioned before, you have to be in it to win it, so to speak. So please apply for scholarships. Apply for as many as you are eligible, because you never know. Sometimes it's a numbers game. And please do contact us by email or by phone if you have any specific questions about scholarships. Excellent.
Thank you for that. Trina, anything else to add?
Just the same. You know, we did a survey of applicants who didn't complete their application, and often the reason was because they didn't have enough time. So now that you've listened to all our hints and tips, jump online, take the next week to submit your application and just get it in there. As I said, you need to be in it to win it.
Excellent. So without any other information, I just want to quickly share with you the contact information for our offices, for the scholarship office and also for the co-op office here at UNSW. So you can see that information, I believe, on the screen now. So questions, we're definitely here to help. Scholarships, you can reach them on that number or via their email address, scholarships@unsw.edu.au. Co-op, their phone number there, and also their email address if you do have any questions that you have that need to get answered that you didn't get answered this evening. So that is it for our Google Hangout this evening. Thank you so much for joining us here at on the Google Hangout and for your questions this evening. If there's anything else, don't hesitate to reach out to us in Scholarships or Co-op or the Future Students Office. And thank you to our panel for joining us as well, and have a lovely evening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.